voting for the Oscars actually work? So for most of the award categories, it's just regular voting. You go in there, you put in your vote. But when it comes to the best film, which is the biggest award of the night, there is ranking that takes place. So what happens? You go in to cast your ballot, you say number 1, number 2, number 3, the films that you think most deserve it. And the final film, after you rank them, is just the one that collects the most votes. So it's a little bit more complicated than the rest of the voting. But what actually happens is it means that you can end up having surprises, and it would be a huge surprise if something like Anora, made on a relatively smaller budget than a lot of the other films, but made by a director who has been so acclaimed for films that spotlight communities that aren't typically talked about. So it's a very, very exciting film. It's my personal favorite.
The fact that you've seen it.
In the list of films that we've got tonight. Griya, before we go back, what is your favorite film? What's the film that you're hoping will see some big wins?
You know, before I actually get in my word on who do you think or who I think is going to make it this time around, I also want to understand, because we began with talking about controversy since the host, addressed all of that in his own specific way. But I really want to understand Emilia Perez, an international film vying for 13 Oscar nods this time around. Never before that has happened in Oscar history. How did the film really not go into the intricacies when it is about leading up to the Oscars? How did they miss those tweets by the lead actor, and a lead actor who's openly transgender, first time again, who's in fact been nominated in the Best Actor category? How did it happen? How did they miss it? How did they not go about and retract those tweets before it went public or before any journalist noticed
the series of public interviews she gave that I think actually made the controversy worse in many ways. So it was almost like a PR crisis in a sense, which is I think what Conan O'Brien actually referred to in the opening.
Absolutely.
But Emilia Perez still, though, I do want to point out, still the biggest pick for Best Supporting Actress. Zoe Saldana has picked up that award in all of the run-up awards.
But that's because the studio is going behind her. She's kind of a martyr in this whole thing because
it's a fascinating...
she is bearing the brunt of one person's folly, and that too something that was said in 2020, but obviously something that is borderlining Islamophobia amongst other things. Amongst other things which are very, very problematic. Do you think a film should bear the brunt of one person's folly, to repeat myself?
I do think a film needs to be responsible in its casting choices. You've got a huge studio like Netflix behind this film. I also think the PR crisis could have been handled very, very differently from the way. I think that's really that's where the studio could have shown itself, and I think that's where things went differently. And in comparison, you have a film like I'm just bringing it back to Anora again.
Yes, of course.
But a gritty, lovely film like Anora, complete unknown. Timothy, you've got so many good contenders, is my point, and it's a crowded field. It's a crowded game as usual. Let's just go back for a second to Edward to understand a little bit more. Edward, just tell our audiences a little bit more about what this means. I just want to talk a little bit about what this means for actors who win this award. And the reason I want to touch on that is because we've seen Timothy have a campaign like no other. He's already a charismatic person, but the media appearance he's been making, whether in SNL, where he was both the musical guest and the host, or just like little videos he's been putting out on the internet, it feels like he's been driving his own campaign for an award recognition with a complete unknown. And just a few days ago, we saw him give that beautiful, very, very moving speech as he won the award, where he just kind of went up there and said, look, I want to be one of the greatest. What did you think when you saw that speech? Because I know it did rub some people the wrong way. They were like, this guy, seems like a bit of an upstart. But for a lot of people, it was very endearing. How did you see it?
Actors have a job to, be in the public eye. It's what we've signed up for. And especially when you're a superstar, especially when you're a young, up-and-coming I wouldn't call Timothée Chalamet up-and-coming, I guess. I mean, but he's young and he's hot. And you have a job to do when that is your persona, when that is what you're doing. And I think he's just filling that role. I think he's doing his job.
But he's doing it like no one else we've seen do it in the Best Actor list. You don't agree? You're not is it fair to say that? Because I haven't seen any of the other Best Actor nominees do that really in that manner in the last few months.
Yeah, I guess that is the cutting edge of
social
PR.
media promotion.
and that's his generation. And yeah, I guess he's leading the way, and we're probably going to see a lot more of that kind of PR going on for the
I
big
think
stars.
probably to add to that, I think he could have articulated it better to avoid that controversy, Toya. But I do think that Timothy does have something in common with one of the greats, and that's James Dean. 2 Oscar nominations for a young actor at his age, at just 29, I believe. That's incredible. So
And
that's something to look forward
We're
to.
just learning right now that Conan O'Brien has spoken in Hindi on stage.
Wow.
We'll just tell you more details about that. So I love how excited we get when we see Hindi spoken.
Any
spoken
India
anywhere.
connection is
Yeah,
welcome.
and he'd addressed Indian audiences like we're doing right now. Stay with us, stay with our coverage. We'll be right here over the next few minutes to grab your breakfast, coffee or tea. Obviously, it's night time in LA, but we're bringing you all of the updates. See us in just a few minutes.